Do I have to do that again? So welcome back to Field Service in Focus. And today's session, we're looking at sustainability, but really how companies can turn their sustainability challenges into opportunities for them to grow their businesses. So today I've invited a couple of my IFS colleagues. So Caitlin Keam, who's the product director for ESG within IFS, and also Sophie Graham, who looks after our ESG and sustainability initiatives within IFS. So ladies, thank you for joining us today. So first of all, I really wanted to kick off really with more understanding why is sustainability such a priority for businesses. We did some research last year where we went out to 400 service leaders globally. So these were leaders in manufacturing, utilities, service organizations, telcos, and we asked them about some of the challenges they had and also focuses for 2023. And what came out clearly was their number one focus was sustainability. And I found this quite a surprise, really, because we've been running this kind of research for about 10 years now, and sustainability really hasn't appeared in the top focuses. It's been there or thereabouts and round about number 7 or 8 in the priorities. And we know, talking at the kind of board level and C-level, that obviously it's right, it's been on the radar for several years. But really what I haven't seen is that it's translated down to operations leaders and service leaders and how they're now starting to operationalize it and really drive sustainability through their operations. So today, I mean, really what I want to understand is why is sustainability becoming such a big focus for these companies? What are the main drivers that are pushing them towards driving these sustainability initiatives through their businesses?
So a lot of that is being driven from finance, looking to recognize that link between financial materiality and how companies are performing with sustainability. So companies that do well with sustainability, that consider this, are simply better run organizations. They're better with risk management, they attract and retain talent, and they're also thinking about the future. So they're more resilient, they know their supply chain, they have an eye to how things are developing. And so all of that makes them a more attractive investment, and that's why investors are really leading the charge here. But also we see regulation really coming in. And part of the reason that regulation is coming in is to cut through the noise of companies saying, we're green, we do this well, you know, these are sustainable funds, to say, okay, let's bring some consistency and comparability to that. And so that's why we see regulators really driving this forward as well and helping to bring clarity into the claims which can be considered greenwashing, and say you can use accurate, comparable and consistent disclosures from companies to make decisions on what's an attractive investment from a green and sustainable point of view.
How consistent are the regulations between different countries, and how does an international business navigate that?
Yeah, so we're seeing a clear global trend of increasing regulation when it comes to sustainability, alongside all of the voluntary guidelines, standards and frameworks that already exist. And one term you'll hear a lot is alignment. So they often claim to be aligned, but not entirely the same. And that comes down to a fundamental challenge with sustainability, which is that it can mean 1,000 different things to different people. So how do companies navigate this? How do they deal with it best? And my advice would be to look at what's relevant to your business and most relevant to your stakeholders. So from those most commonly used disclosures, frameworks, guidelines and standards, which of those are your investors using, for example? Which of those are your customers looking at most? And those form the basis then of what goes into a lot of the regulations. So the Task Force for Climate-Related Financial Disclosures, for example, TCFD, or the Global Reporting Initiative, GRI, will then form the basis of regulations such as the CSRD, which is coming out of the European Union.
So Caitlin, based on your experience working with service customers, how do they strategize their sustainability approach?
Yeah, I work with customers all the time, always speaking to them about their goals, strategy, challenges and opportunities. And sometimes we have customers that are just a little overwhelmed and asking me for advice, and I always say the same thing, that it's really just get started. And to help companies get started in this field of ESG, there is what's called a materiality assessment, and this is about understanding the sustainability issues that are important to your organization in terms of financial impact and the impact on people and the planet. This assessment gives you the metrics to work towards, so it could be you got to understand your carbon emissions, energy, water, waste, employee diversity, health and safety, whatever is important in your organization. Once you have that and you understand it, you can set very clear goals and objectives. Now you have something to work towards.
Yeah.
Once you have something to work towards, you can build out your strategy. Quick run through materiality assessment, goals and objectives, strategy. Once you have this, this is where technology comes in, because you're going to need the data to support it. Then it's initiatives. You actually have to do something and implement something to achieve those goals and targets. The data isn't going to help you reduce your emissions. And here, where we talk to our service customers and service companies in general, technology is an enabler again to help them with those reductions, where we see schedule optimization, reducing emissions, a lot of customers leveraging reverse logistics and things like remote assistance, all taking time off the road, saving fuel and saving emissions.
But you talked about the importance of data there.
Yes.
Are they, and having that data in the first place, because as you said, before you start strategizing and improving, you kind of need to know where you are today. Do a lot of companies already have a good leverage on their existing data and where they're at in terms of emissions or remanufacturing? Do they have that data at hand that they can use to set their goals and objectives?
Yes and no.
Okay.
A lot of your operational data exists, and then they have it, and it's just about pulling it together and in the right ways that you need it to measure against your targets. But in the field of sustainability, it's bigger than that. It's broader. It's understanding your whole value chain, understanding the supply chain, and this is where the challenge really comes in, because you don't have control over that data anymore, and you've got to go out to your suppliers, and you need to then you're making assumptions and figuring it out. And this is where we're seeing a lot of change driven by regulations of people having to do it. And again, where technology can support with data of bringing all those disparate systems together and bringing supply chain information together to help you build that full picture of the impact of your product or service throughout its entire lifetime while it's in the world.
So it kind of, do you see it being part of companies' digital transformation? I'm just thinking, if it's data touching that many processes, is it driving them to transform digitally, or is it something they build into their digital transformation?
Integrated.
Journey? Yeah.
Integrated in your business strategy, as part of your digital transformation journey. It's never going to be something done on the side. Different companies are approaching it differently, or have been approaching it differently. We're seeing a bit of a trend of companies using a lot of consultants, and now recently, in the last maybe 2 years, starting to hire dedicated sustainability teams. And we're seeing the growth of sustainability teams bringing that in-house, which also goes to that it's got to be integrated approach. And then the maturity of that is that the sustainability teams are actually just embedding through the organization, and you wouldn't want a giant sustainability team driving this. You would want your dedicated focus in procurement, someone in supply chain.
So everyone sees it as their goal to achieve these sustainability goals. They become a sustainability.
But equally, if it's everyone's problem, it's no one's problem, is the danger, right? So what we've done at IFS to try and manage the governance of it is created sustainability business partners. So a network of 15 or so I want to say champions, but it's more like business partners like you'd have in HR or risk, who are the nominated experts in their area, who can then say, how is this relevant in marketing or procurement? And we focus on upskilling that network and really leveraging them as the key points of contact across the business to operationalize this and make it relevant to that particular area.
Monitoring plays a crucial role in sustainability. What kind of data can software capture, and how does that contribute to success?
If digital technologies are really brought to scale, there's a potential for them to reduce emissions by 20% in the highest emitting sectors, that's energy, materials, and importantly to service, mobility. And data, it's really the foundation. So I just want to touch on the two things that I hear from our customers the most, and it's data for their carbon emissions calculations and understanding their suppliers. So on carbon calculations, they've got to report on their Scope 1 emissions, which are their direct emissions. And this data is more readily available because it's your direct operations.
You own that data, you can measure it yourself,
Then Scope 2 emissions, which are from purchased electricity, heat and steam. Again, utility bills, you have that somewhere. And then the real challenge is coming in your Scope 3 emissions, which are your indirect emissions. So now it's out of your control, a lack of data, different methodologies of how you calculate it, people approaching it a little bit differently. And it's really a challenge for our customers, and actually, like any organization I've spoken to, no one has said Scope 3 is easy. We can see the challenge, and where technology supports is it's really taking all this data, getting it all together, but turning that data into information so that when you're doing supplier selections or thing like that, you can see environmental and social impact alongside cost or other SLA terms that you're looking at when you're selecting suppliers.
Part of that selection of suppliers, exactly. Do you provide Scope 3 data to us?
Yes, we're already seeing it. We're in IFS, we're getting supplier or RFI requests to report on it. When I speak to customers, they're saying our customers and suppliers are asking us for their emissions, our investors are asking for it. So there's information requests coming from all over the place.
And certainly with suppliers, when you're looking down your value chain, many of those sustainability risks will actually occur a couple of links down the supply chain. So it's important to try and get that visibility to go further beyond that just first tier supplier. And then thinking about, well, you'll not only have less visibility, but you also have less leverage the further down the chain that you go. So technology will be a crucial enabler to enable that visibility and that sort of engagement with suppliers beyond your first tier supply chain.
So we talked then about cost of operations, and obviously a lot of these initiatives have traditionally been delivered, been about reducing costs in the business and also becoming more competitive. Like when I talk to service organisations traditionally, their challenges and their goals have been very much twofold. It's really about reducing the costs of their operations and also about customer experience and CX. And really, whenever they have initiatives, it's about how do they, tick those two boxes. And what's coming through from you guys is they've got a third goal that's coming through, and it's really about sustainability. But what's interesting is a lot of those initiatives that we've been talked about are about growing their business, becoming more competitive, and also about reducing cost of operations, but also about that third thing, about sustainability and ESG goals. The one thing that I hadn't really thought about was that data, and data's such a big problem for service businesses at the moment that, that access to data and tracking data is a challenge. But if they're gonna then achieve these goals and have them properly transparent and have the disclosure on them, they need easy access to that data and to track it moving forwards. So I think that's going to be an interesting challenge for a lot of those businesses. So really appreciate your time today, ladies.
Thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you.